Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. These Norscan ice trolls are feeling right at home in this frozen tundra, and we have Norsca versus the Empire for you here today. I am leading the Norscan forces, and Tulkas is leading the forces of Sigmar. So for the Norscan army that I have built for you today, we have some Marauders in the front line, one of which being the Icehorn Marauders with that rage mechanic. We have some Ice Trolls right behind them, and some more Marauders supporting those Ice Trolls in the rear. Our leadership department is a Skinwolf Werekin with Wulfric the Wanderer, bringing Seafang and Hunter of Champions, and we have a Shaman Sorcerer of Death who is bringing Spirit Leech and Fate of Biuna. And for skirmishing forces, we have 3 Marauder Horsemen in the front, all with throwing axes. And then in the tree line, we have the Beast of Tashmar and the Norscan Warhounds. And we also have 1 unit of Marauder Chariots, hoping to shut down the back line, but it's a very straightforward build. Pretty much rush forward and use these skirmishers to whittle down the opponent's cav and large targets. So for the Empire's forces, we have a front line of swordsmen, we have a flagellant unit in here, and we also have Sigmar's sons. So we have a couple unbreakable units that will hopefully hold the line against the Norscan forces. We have some spearmen, 4 units of those as well, to help deal with some of the larger targets. Those Norscan ice trolls, for example. And then we have 2 units of handgunners as well, with a great cannon to provide some nice ranged fire support. And in the mobility department, we have some Empire Knights, and we also have Knights of the Blazing Sun. Knights of the Blazing Sun will be very good against the trolls, and in any maybe Skinwolf Werekins that could be coming their way. The Demigryph Knights are going to be here as well, with a fantastic armor-piercing and very strong unit. This is the Lance variant, it is not the Halberds. And for leadership, we of course have Karl Franz up in the sky. Looks like he's bringing Reichling Runefang. He is not bringing Kal Maraz by the looks of it. And yeah, Stand Your Ground and Foe Seeker. So he will be just getting that base leadership, melee attack and leadership. I think Kal Maraz is actually a fairly good pick here, though. Especially considering you could be going up against Wulfric and a lot of large targets, and that does very well at giving a nice bonus versus large and just a massive boost to everything else. We also have the Jade Wizard, who is bringing Earthblood, and is that Shield of Thorns as well by the looks of it? I don't know, Flesh to Stone and Earthblood. So if we have Flesh to Stone, nice boost of 60 armor. Usually don't see that. It's usually, especially with the Jade Wizard, you're going to be seeing Earthblood and Regrowth. But let's get things going for you, ladies and gentlemen, as we have the throwing axes are starting to push forward a little bit, trying to get a little bit of skirmishing down onto the Empire forces. So they are going to be just about getting in range. However, these handgunners are also right on their range, and they open up into this middle unit here, doing a ton of damage to these Marauder Horsemen. I'm pulling out as quickly as I can, but they take already 50% of their HP in fire from those, just pretty much one volley from each of those handgunners. And they are going to be having to rethink their strategy there, and they're going to want to be avoiding those handgunners as they just get torn up. They're going to want to be saving their ammo for the Demigryph Knights and for Karl Franz himself. But the Great Cannon is now firing into these Norscan Ice Trolls. Really decent target to be shooting at, though they do have regen, so as long as they're able to keep all of their models, they're going to be able to get a lot of that health back, and it looks like so far the shots have not been able to peel off any of their models. Handgunners, though, getting a nice opening volley into these Iceborne Marauders, and the swordsmen will be charging into the fight. Marauders and Ice Trolls will be absolutely destroying these swordsmen, especially with the help of that Skinwolf Werekin. Another unit of swordsmen in with the Iceborne Marauders, and Iceborne Marauders should be able to win that engagement as well. But Norscans have pushed hard onto the right flank of the Empire, as the left flank had their unbreakable units. And we do have a Seafang going to be cutting through the Spearmen, doing a lot of damage to them, getting rid of that anti-large, but the right flank of the Empire is buckling very heavily as the Norscans are starting to push more and more into the back line. Skirmishing Cav trying to get some shots in onto the Knights of Blazing Sun and the Demigryph Knights, though the Demigryph Knights have caught out the Marauder Chariot, and Marauder Chariots will definitely lose that engagement in melee combat, and they're not probably going to be able to get out of that engagement without the assistance of these throwing axes. But yeah, the Norscans continue to push their way farther and further into the back lines of the Empire here, as now Wulfric the Wanderer with the Skinwolf Werekin is jumping onto Karl Franz, who has Hunter Champions on him as well, getting a reduction of 30 armor and for the melee attack, and slowed down quite a significant amount. And now he has taken a considerable amount of damage, and there is no regrowth on the field, only Earthblood, so that damage is going to be a little bit harder for him to heal back up on. Now these Norscan Ice Wolves almost getting into the Great Cannons, but the Empire doing very nice peeling off them with these Empire Knights, as they are pretty much routing them right off the field. In the back, we have those chariots have been completely eliminated from the field, though on the plus side for Norsca, they have been able to pull off the Demigryph Knights for pretty much the entire meat of this engagement, as the front lines are pretty much just collapsing on all fronts. We have some Marauder horsemen coming in with these Knights of the Blazing Sun, and in the black, so it looks like they're getting a few little shots in, but they are going to instead go for a nice charge as a volley comes off, though it looks like they might even be able to break those Knights of the Blazing Sun off the charge, and they do. So that is a very good engagement here. The rest of the troops are being kind of cut away from the spearmen. They do need to get back into this engagement. They have some much better targets to be firing in on. Wulfric now getting another Sea Fang right through these handgunners, doing quite a bit of damage, and with the help of the Icehorn Marauders should be able to rout them off the field fairly quickly, and away they go. Though in comes Karl Franz, targeting that Skinwolf Werekin, as Wulfric is actually tied up with all these Demigryph Knights, and the Empire Knights are kind of keeping him away, but in comes some of the Marauders to help assist. And if that Skinwolf Werekin goes down, this might be a way for the Empire to kind of pull back a little bit in the balance of power. I know the Jade Wizard actually trying to screen out these Ice Horns from getting up or chasing off those handgunners, as the Shaman Sorcerer of Death is actually able to shut down these great cannons by himself. But otherwise, and we also had Karl Franz getting a nice little buff to armor to save him as much as possible. And in comes more of the reinforcements for the cavalry. But yeah, that Skinwolf Werekin is a little bit isolated right now. Karl Franz getting a few little hits in the back, doing some good damage there, as some of the spearmen are coming in to support. But this Wulfric and the Shaman Sorcerer have been able to push off the Great Cannons for the time being. The Demigryph Knights are now coming in to support Karl Franz as best they can, though Karl Franz is taking quite a bit of damage. He does have Spirit Leech on him as well, Hunter Champions. He does still have the Flesh of Stone on him, but he is taking a lot of damage, and he is going to be routing from the field. If we take a quick look at what he has, he only has a couple hundred health left on him, and that is going to be very bad for him. He may come back from this with another Earthblood or two, but he is going to be out for at least the time being, as now Wulfric and the Ice Trolls are able to focus down these Demigryph Knights a bit more, pay attention to more of the mobility side of this engagement. And the Jade Wizard, though, is still free for the time being, so he will be able to get some nice heals off onto this blob of units here. They do have some couple good targets for an Earthblood. We have the Empire Knights and the Demigryph Knights. Wulfric trying to pull out a little bit to get free of these Demigryphs, but the Marauders are trying to shut down the healing that the Jade Wizard is able to provide, and for the time being, they are doing a fairly decent job. He is starting to lose a bit of leadership, but an Earthblood did go down on Karl Franz, getting a little bit of more health back for him. We do have some more units of Norsca are starting to get peeled away. The Ice Trolls are being pushed off, but a lot of reinforcements are coming back after they have been pushing off some of the handgunners, though Wulfric does go down to an attack from Karl Franz, and that could be enough to give them a little bit of second life here in the late game when the Marauders do collapse in on this formation. Karl Franz is able to pull off, at least for the time being. We still have the Skinwolf Werekin and the Shaman Sorcerer, so that will be fairly helpful. And it looks like another Spirit Leech has gone down on top of Karl Franz, as he does look to try and save his Jade Wizard, who is on the brink of routing. And it looks like, at least for the time being, it might be enough to stabilize, as he does rout off these Marauder Horsemen off the charge. But we do have some Icehorn Marauders coming in to finish the job. But yeah, so far, taking a look, the mobility is still probably a bit in the Empire's favor right now. We still have the Demigryph Knights, and I should be some Empire Knights And there they are. So if those two are able to work together, they should be able to kind of cycle charge these Marauders down, really try and break things off. But we do have the Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes are coming back, and Karl Franz is a little too close for those throwing axes, and he is going to be trying to kind of get away from that range here. He should be able to outspeed them, but he does rout, and that's going to provide those Marauder Horsemen the opportunity to get their shots in. Though the Empire Knights are now routing, so now it is just down to the Demigryph Knights, and with the Skinwolf Werekin mixed in there, that's not going to be an engagement they necessarily want to stick around in, but it might be just enough to break off these Marauder Horsemen. It looks like army losses are going to be triggering for the Empire, and Norsca will take this match. The only thing left is going to be just the Sigmar Sons. That will not be enough to save the day for the Empire. Maybe take a quick look at the after battle report. Wulfric definitely pulling his weight with 136 kills, pretty much busting through that the Empire's left flank fairly quickly with the assistance of the Trolls. Trolls doing fairly well, getting 91 and 26. And even though the Marauder Chariot pretty much got pushed off the field right away, it did pull off these Demigryph Knights for quite a while, allowing pretty much the infantry to push in and pretty much get right into that second line of the Empire forces. And I definitely think the Jade Wizard needed to have regrowth. If you're bringing Karl Franz, having regrowth is just such a good spell to have. And you have the Demigryph Knights as well, who's another good target for regrowths, since each of their units have quite a bit of health. So, I mean, in Earthblood, as long as you're able to get multiple units, can be quite helpful. But especially with Karl Franz, I think that single target regrowth would have been the way to go. And Gal Maraz on top of Reichling Runefang, I think also would have been another good addition to his kit, especially against Wulfric. I think Wulfric would have dropped a lot sooner had he brought Gal Maraz on top of the Reichling Runefang, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense considering those are two weapons, but that is how his kit works out. Otherwise, it was a very good match, and I hope you all enjoyed the video. And as always, have a good one.